Hello there. I was just looking at these two plants and trying to figure out which one I should keep. Um, in order to do that, I guess I really need to know what's similar and what's different about them. And so, when I'm looking at these two plants, I'm comparing and contrasting. This is something we worked on in class last week. Most of you weren't there. But for those people who did show up to class, we spent an entire week, well, 5 days, 5 school days, working on this idea of how do we write in a comparing and contrasting way. And what the students told me was that when you're comparing and contrasting something, it's usually because you're trying to make a choice between two things. Which movie should you go see? Which food should you eat? Which hotel should you stay at? And so together, we decided that we were going to come up with a compare and contrast article about McDonald's and A&W. And we were going to write about how they were similar and how they were different. So, we're going to spend a little bit of time over the next few days looking at how we did that, and I want each of you to also make your own compare and contrast article. It doesn't need to be about fast food, it doesn't need to be about McDonald's, it doesn't need to be about A&W, it doesn't need to be about food at all, but it could be if you wanted it to. But that's the example that we did and then we worked on together as a class. So, let's take a look at how we set that up. The first step was brainstorming. So let's see how we structured our brainstorming to make sure we had enough information to write our entire article. Here is our example that Room 28 made, or at least the students who showed up last week for school made together. So we decided on the topic, and the topic was fast food restaurants. And we spoke a little bit about which fast food restaurants we had all been to, and everybody in the class had been to McDonald's, and everybody in the class had been to A&W. Now, it's really important to choose a topic you're familiar with, especially if you don't have any research available to you. Now, you're going to be at home, so you might have some time to do some background research, but we had no computer access, so we started with things that we knew a lot about. So, we chose McDonald's and A&W. And as you can see, we split the table up into similarities and differences. And we started with similarities. So we said, of course, they both have hamburgers, they both have fast food, they both have a drive-through, which means that you can stay in your car, pick up the food, and keep going, which of course is very important nowadays. They both have french fries or chips, they both have soft drinks, and they're both chain restaurants, which means that there are multiple locations of them. So you can go to different cities in the world, or at least in Canada, and you can see a McDonald's or an A&W. Okay, let's look at differences. So with differences, I had to split up the section into two subsections, one for McDonald's and one for A&W. Because since they're different, you need to be able to show what those differences are. So we started with McDonald's, and we said, well, McDonald's only has regular French fries, whereas A&W has sweet potato fries. Furthermore, we said that McDonald's has toys as part of their Happy Meals, and unfortunately, when you go to A&W, you don't get a toy or a book or anything like that. Adding on to that, we saw that McDonald's has yogurt as a choice for the Happy Meals, whereas at A&W there is no yogurt available. McDonald's has McFlurries, which is sort of an ice cream, well, it's not really ice cream, ice treats, dairy-based dessert. A&W does not have that, but they do have root beer floats, so that's something that McDonald's doesn't have. One of the students mentioned onion rings, and they said that McDonald's doesn't have very good onion rings. They're soggy. A&W's onion rings are crispy. And then we talked about the branding differences between the two of them, and there really wasn't enough space for us to mention the differences on this piece of paper that I could fit it on the screen. But we know that if you go to a McDonald's restaurant, it's very modern looking, lots of glass and dark colors. Whereas if you go to A&W, it's sort of more retro 1950s style with orange colors and chrome tops and things like that. So the interior decoration in the two stores is very different. We also talked about the difference between their mascots, and we saw that McDonald's has Ronald McDonald, obviously the clown, and they've also got Hamburglar, which is the thief that steals hamburgers, and Grimace, which is this purple thing. I don't really know what Grimace is. If anyone can explain, please let me know. And then we looked at A&W, and A&W has the burger family, right? Mama, Papa, Uncle, Teen. And then they also have the root beer, although you don't see the root beer very often. It's this bear. It's a bear. He dances. He's called the root beer because A&W has root beer. He's called the root beer because A&W has root beer. We also compared the hamburgers, and the people in the class told me that McDonald's hamburgers are quite flat, whereas A&W's hamburgers are more puffy. And I said that when you go to McDonald's, you're a little bit disappointed by the burgers not really looking like what they look like in the advertisements. So that's what we mean by flat. They seem deflated in some way. And finally, we talked about the cups that you can get stuff in. So when you go to McDonald's, everything's in a plastic cup, or actually, I think they're paper disposable cups as well. And you can get those at A&W, but you can also get glass mugs, and they're frosted mugs. They're kept in the freezer so that when you pour the drinks into them, it keeps the drinks cool, and you don't need to use any ice. So those are the differences that we made, and those are the similarities that we made. So this is brainstorming that we did together. So now what I want you to do is download the same form online. It will look something like this. And as you can see, it's blank, so you're going to have to fill it in yourself. That's your assignment for today, and I've given you lots of space to come up with as many similarities and differences as you can, but I want you to come up with at least 5 similarities and 5 differences, and then you can send it back to me on Google Classroom. Well, they both smell the same, so that's not going to help me make a choice. Anyways, what do I want you to do? What I want you to do is to choose what topic and what comparators you're going to have for your compare and contrast article. So, at the bottom of this video, I want you to answer that question. What topic are you going to choose, and what 2 things are you going to compare? We chose the topic fast food restaurants, and the 2 comparators that we chose last week were McDonald's and A&W. What are you going to choose? After you've made that decision, you need to start brainstorming similarities and differences. So I've put up a copy of the brainstorming sheet that we used last week. If you have a printer, you can download it and print it, or you can download it onto your computer and fill it in. Either way, I want you to make a planning sheet and plan out your ideas. If you don't have a printer, I don't have a printer. If you don't have a printer, you can just copy out the structure onto a piece of lined paper and plan it that way. And so you need to get all of your ideas ready so that you can compare and contrast. And send that to me as well. And I'll make a place on Google Classroom for you to either take a picture of it and then upload it, or download the file and then fill it in and then upload it. Either way, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you compare and contrast. In the meantime, I'm going to hang out with my plant friends here. See you next time.